1 Samuel chapter 26 and verse 7. So David and Abishai came to the people by night. And behold, Saul lay sleeping within the trench, and his spear stuck in the ground at his bolster. But Abner and the people lay round about him. What was that in the ground? Wait a minute. Is that what it said? Stuck in the ground. What did it say was stuck in the ground? Didn't it say a spear? What was that he threw at him trying to kill him? Okay, now let's look at, but Abner and the people lay round about him. Verse 8. Then said Abishai to David, God hath delivered thine enemy into thine hand this day. Now therefore let me smite him, I pray thee, with the what? Even to the earth at once, and I will not smite him the second time. So he said, just give me one chance. I'll kill him with the first stroke. I won't have to hit him twice. You see it? And David said to Abishai, destroy him not, for who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? Okay, now go on over to second, very quickly now, go over to 2 Samuel. Saul is dead. Saul is dead. Verse 5, 1 and 5, 2 Samuel. And David said unto the young man that told him, how knowest thou that Saul and Jonathan his son be dead? How do you know they're dead? Well, he explains it to him. Verse 11. Then David took hold on his clothes and rent them, and likewise all the people, men that were with him. And they mourned and wept and fasted until even for Saul and for Jonathan his son and for the people of the Lord and for the house of Israel, because they were fallen by the sword. Saints, I could weep. I could weep right here. I hope you listen to me. Listen to me just a little while. Go back now in 1 Samuel. Hold that in your mind and go to 1 Samuel 25. Go to the 25th chapter. Now, you know the story of David and Nabal. You know that David and his servants were fugitives running from Saul, of all people. And they were out in the country where Nabal's shepherds were. Nabal had sheep. And David and his men actually protected Nabal's shepherds and his sheep. You follow that? Now, verse 4. And David heard in the wilderness that Nabal did shear his sheep. And David sent out 10 young men. And David said to the young men, get you up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name. And thus shall ye say to him that liveth in prosperity, peace be to thee, both to thee, and peace to thine house, and peace be unto all that thou hast. And now I have heard that thou hast shearers. Now thy shepherds which were with us, we heard them not, neither was there aught missing unto them all the while they were in Carmel. Ask thy young men, and they will show thee. Verse 9. And when David's young men came, they spake to Nabal according to all those words in the name of David, and ceased. And Nabal answered David's servants and said, who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? There be many servants nowadays that break away every man from his master. Look at verse 12. So David's young men turned their way and went again and came and told him all those sayings. And David said unto his men, gird ye on every man his sword. And they girded on every man his sword. And David also girded on his sword. And there went up after David about 400 men, and 200 of bold by the stuff. You follow? Let's go on down. Look at verse 21. When Abigail, Nabal's wife, meets David. Verse 21. Now David had said, surely in vain have I kept all that this fellow hath in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that pertained unto him, and he hath requited me evil for good. So and more also do God unto the enemies of David, if I leave of all that pertains to him by the morning, like any that pisseth against the wall, or any males. And when Abigail saw David, she hastened and lighted off the ass, and fell before David on her face, and bowed herself to the ground. And you know that Abigail ran interference, told David, don't do this. God is going to take care of you. Now get this now. Lord, help me tonight. Help me tonight. Look at verse 28. I pray thee, forgive the trespass of thy handmaid. She hadn't done anything. But she intercedes. When you intercede, you take the position of the person you're praying for, as though you were the one that's guilty or with the condition. Intercession, you stand in the stead of the person as though you were the person. Let's go on. So it says, forgive it, for the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house. Going to give David a sure house, because my Lord fighteth the battles of the Lord, and evil have not been found in thee all thy days. Now she talks about Saul, 29. Yet a man is risen to pursue thee and to seek thy soul. But the soul of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of life with the Lord thy God. I'm not going to read any more about that. Now let's go on down. Verse 30. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord shall have done to my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning thee, and shall have appointed thee ruler over Israel, that this shall be no grief unto thee, nor offense of heart unto my Lord, either that thou hast shed blood causeless, or that my Lord hath avenged himself. I want you to look at these two scenarios. In the Saul scenario, Saul has tried to kill David repeatedly. In the Nabal scenario, Nabal just decided not to give David any of his goods. Which one has done the greater act of hostility toward David? Saul. This is not a trick question. Who had done David the more wrong? Saul had. And yet, which one did David determine to do the more damage to? Nabal. The crime of Saul was greater than the crime of Nabal. Yet David's reaction to Nabal was greater than his reaction to Saul. The difference between David's reaction to Saul and David's reaction to Nabal is the spirit of offense. David was offended in Nabal. He did not allow his heart to harbor offense against Saul. There's some of you here in this room that have had terrible things done to you, but you bounced back from it. Somebody else showed up and did a light thing, and you were ready to cuss. How is it that you could take the great pain, but the itch caused you to want to lay down your religion? It's because in the lesser thing, you began to operate in the spirit of offense. How is it that we handle one situation so well and fly totally off the handle in the other situation? It's not because the situation was worse, because the situation is less. It's the spirit of offense. I want you to compare reactions and responses to various hostilities that have come your way. And I know what I've seen in the house of God. I've seen people who in their houses and in their families have been treated like dogs, and they keep coming back to them. But in the house of God, somebody just didn't speak, or somebody just some light thing took place, and they're ready to go ballistic. How is it that you can handle illegal level abuse in one setting, but can't take nothing in the house of God? I'm going to tell you, it's because in the house of God, you have been predisposed to the spirit of offense. Don't have a forgiving spirit for the greater offense or the greater wrong, and then allow a small thing to trip you. You see it? And if we examine ourselves, almost all of us have seen that kind of paradoxical situation even in our own lives. It wasn't the big thing that caused us to stumble. It was just a small thing, but the small thing was magnified through the spirit of offense. Listen to what David was going to do. David was getting ready to kill every male in that man's household. Come on now, David. Just because he won't give you any food, you know God going to supply your need. You're the one who said, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. But when that boy got offended, he became a would-be murderer. We are dangerous when we are offended.